Here's something that might blow your mind. You know the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment? The one where they test kids' self-control by seeing if they can wait for a second marshmallow? Well, get this. Kids today are actually better at waiting than kids from previous generations. Not worse, better. In 2018, researchers found that children in the 2000s waited an average of 2 minutes longer than kids in the 1960s. 2 whole minutes! So much for the narrative that technology is destroying our attention spans, right? But here's the twist that'll really get you thinking.
While our kids can resist a physical marshmallow better than ever before, they're living in a world where they never have to wait for an informational one. Welcome to Mindcast. I'm Well, and today we're diving deep into one of the most profound shifts happening in childhood development right now, and most of us don't even realize it's happening. What I'm about to share with you comes from a comprehensive research synthesis called the Epistemic Shift, essentially a deep dive into how AI is rewiring the way our children learn, think, and relate to knowledge itself. And friends, this isn't just about screen time or digital distraction. This is about something much more fundamental. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand why the phrase, "I don't know," might be one of the most important things a parent can say to a child. You'll discover how AI's constant certainty is actually starving developing brains of something crucial they need to grow. And you'll walk away with 3 concrete strategies to protect your child's cognitive independence in an age of artificial intelligence. But first, let me ask you this. When was the last time you said, "I don't know," to your child? Really think about it, because what we're about to explore suggests that this simple admission might be more powerful than any answer you could give them. Let's start with something that sounds almost counterintuitive, the psychological power of parental ignorance. Now, before you think I'm suggesting parents should be ignorant, hear me out. There's actually deep wisdom in not having all the answers. When your 7-year-old asks you, "Why is the sky blue?" and you respond with, "I don't know, let's find out together," you're not failing as a parent. You're actually triggering something profound in their developing brain. Research shows that this moment of admitted ignorance serves 4 critical developmental functions. First, you're modeling what researchers call epistemic humility. You're showing your child that not knowing something is normal, temporary, and universal, not a personal failure or source of shame. Think about that for a moment. In a world that often rewards certainty and punishes uncertainty, you're teaching them that wisdom actually begins with recognizing our limitations. Second, and this might surprise you, admitting ignorance actually builds trust. Studies show that children as young as 3 become deeply skeptical of adults who display unearned confidence when they're wrong. Kids have finely tuned BS detectors. They learn to trust informants based on calibrated confidence rather than absolute certainty. Third, "I don't know" is rarely the end of the conversation. It's the beginning of collaboration. When you follow up with, "Let's see if we can find the answer together," you're fundamentally shifting your role from an authoritative oracle to a collaborative guide. You're teaching them the mechanics of research, source evaluation, and sustained inquiry. More importantly, you're strengthening your bond through shared cognitive effort. And fourth, pausing to sit with a difficult question validates your child's thought process. It communicates that their curiosity is valuable and worth a delayed, considered response. This acts as what psychologists call positive relational pressure. You're showing them they're worth waiting for. Now, here's where things get really interesting and a little concerning. Enter artificial intelligence. Unlike human parents, AI systems are architecturally biased against saying, "I don't know." They're designed to always have an answer, delivered with polished confidence and absolute certainty. Think about it. When was the last time ChatGPT or Siri said, "I'm not sure about that, let me think"? These systems optimize for coherence, fluency, and perceived authority. The result? What researchers call synthetic certainty. Answers that feel entirely resolved and frictionless, even when the system is wrong or hallucinating. For a developing child interacting heavily with these systems, the informational environment feels completely different from what humans have experienced for millennia. The phrase, "I don't know," becomes extinct in their digital interactions, and this creates what researchers call the extinction of epistemic friction. Let me explain what epistemic friction is, because this concept is crucial. Epistemic friction is the cognitive work required to acquire knowledge, the wondering, waiting, wrestling with ambiguity that has always characterized human learning. It's the mental effort of not knowing that makes finally knowing so rewarding. But when AI consistently provides instant, comprehensive solutions, it sidesteps this vital process entirely. Children no longer wonder, wait, or wrestle with uncertainty. They simply type a prompt and receive immediate resolution. This brings us to our second major insight: how this shift is literally rewiring children's brains. Learning isn't just about acquiring information. It's fundamentally rewarding because of the intellectual challenges it involves. The human brain operates on what neuroscientists call an effort-reward cycle. When a child encounters a difficult concept or an explicit "I don't know," their brain enters a state of cognitive disequilibrium. Overcoming this challenge through personal effort triggers the brain's reward system, producing dopamine. This dopamine release reinforces motivation, drives deep cognitive engagement, and establishes the intrinsic joy of learning. But when AI tools offer immediate, comprehensive solutions, they sidestep this neurobiological process entirely. The child is deprived of the dopamine reward associated with hard-won understanding. It's like getting the trophy without playing the game. There's no sense of accomplishment, no deep satisfaction, no motivation to tackle the next challenge. Even more concerning is what happens to frustration tolerance. The constant availability of instant answers creates an environment where cognitive discomfort is consistently eliminated by an external agent. Think about this. If every time your child feels confused or challenged, an AI immediately resolves that discomfort, when do they learn to sit with difficulty? Frustration tolerance, the ability to withstand confusion or setbacks without disengaging, is a crucial developmental skill. It's built through repeated, safe exposure to intellectual challenges. But if those challenges are always smoothed over by AI, the child's nervous system never learns to tolerate intellectual adversity. This isn't an inherent weakness in the current generation. It's a symptom of being undertrained by an environment that offers too many cognitive shortcuts at exactly the developmental stages when those shortcuts do the most damage. Now, let's zoom out and look at the broader implications, because this goes way beyond individual learning. We're looking at fundamental changes to creativity, family dynamics, and human agency itself. First, creativity. Breakthroughs in human knowledge, art, and innovation have traditionally emerged from the messy, frustrating process of grappling with the unknown. The greatest human achievements come from sitting with paradoxes and pursuing nagging questions through years of uncertainty. But AI models, trained on vast datasets of existing human outputs, inherently trend towards statistical averages. They give us the most probable answer, not the most creative one. Constant reliance on AI risks what researchers call cognitive homogeneity, where children's creative outputs become standardized by the AI's algorithms and safety filters. We might be shortcutting the very discomfort that breeds genuine innovation. There's compelling research backing this up. A study of middle school students found something called negative transfer when it comes to AI and creativity. Children were given a creative task with access to AI, then later asked to do a similar task without AI. Those who had used AI actually performed worse on the second task than kids who had never used AI at all. The AI didn't just fail to help, it actively impaired their ability to think creatively on their own. Second, we're seeing a fundamental disruption of family dynamics. Throughout human history, parents have held primary epistemic authority. They were the arbiters of truth, the primary sources of knowledge. But AI is increasingly viewed by children not as an advanced search engine, but as a surrogate knower with superior epistemic presence.
Research shows that students increasingly seek feedback from AI rather than human peers or teachers, primarily because AI feedback is immediate, clear, and devoid of human judgment. When a child turns to ChatGPT instead of their parent to process complex emotions or career questions, something profound is lost. An AI lacks genuine empathy, shared lived experiences, and the capacity for physical reassurance that forms the foundation of emotional security. This creates what sociologists call the AI parenting paradox. Ironically, the parents who could benefit most from AI's time-saving capabilities are often the ones who trust it least. Busy, overwhelmed parents avoid the technology because they lack the mental bandwidth to verify its safety. Meanwhile, the technology permeates their children's lives, largely unmediated by parental oversight. And here's perhaps the most serious long-term consequence. We're raising a generation that may lose what researchers call epistemic agency, the power to question, warrant, and claim knowledge responsibly. When children treat AI outputs as unquestionable authorities, they develop what's called automation bias. They trust AI-generated results excessively, even when they recognize potential errors. This bypasses the critical process of belief revision, the skill of adopting knowledge through rigorous source evaluation and critical reflection. Instead of learning to triangulate sources and assess evidence, children accept algorithmic output as ground truth. And here's the kicker. Every AI system contains what researchers call an algorithmic hidden curriculum, cultural, linguistic, and structural biases embedded in training data. Children unknowingly internalize these biased frameworks as objective reality.
So what do we do? How do we harness the incredible power of AI while protecting the developmental processes that make us human? Let me give you 3 concrete, actionable strategies you can start implementing today. Strategy number 1. Intentionally reintroduce epistemic friction. When your child asks you a question, resist the urge to immediately Google or ask AI. Instead, sit with the question together. Say, "That's a really interesting question. What do you think might be happening?" Let them hypothesize, wonder out loud together. Make the not knowing part of the adventure, not something to rush through. When you do eventually look for answers, make it collaborative. Show them how to evaluate sources, how to cross-reference information, how to remain skeptical of overconfident claims. Strategy number 2. Teach AI literacy as a critical life skill. This isn't just about understanding how AI works technically, it's about developing what I call synthetic skepticism. Help your children understand that AI systems have biases, make mistakes, and optimize for engagement over truth. When they use AI tools, teach them to ask follow-up questions like, "What perspective might this be missing?" Or, "How could I verify this information?" Make questioning the machine as natural as questioning any other source of information. Practice bias hunting together. Take an AI response and actively look for what worldview it represents, what voices might be missing, what assumptions it makes. This turns AI from an infallible oracle into what it actually is, a powerful but imperfect tool that requires human judgment. Strategy number 3. Redefine your parental role for the AI age. This might be the most important one. You can't compete with AI on factual recall, and you shouldn't try. Instead, position yourself as the irreplaceable source of 3 things that AI can never provide: ethical context, emotional support, and critical inquiry. When your child brings you an AI-generated answer, don't focus on whether it's factually correct. Instead, ask, "What do you think about this? How does this make you feel?" What questions does this raise for you? How might we use this information responsibly? Your value isn't in having all the answers, it's in helping them navigate what to do with the answers they find. Most importantly, model the behavior you want to see. Admit when you're wrong. Show them how you handle uncertainty. Let them see you struggling with complex problems. Demonstrate that being human means being comfortable with not knowing everything.
Here's what I want you to remember from today's conversation. The integration of AI into childhood isn't just a technological upgrade, it's a fundamental restructuring of human cognitive development. The historical necessity of the parental "I don't know" served as a vital developmental crucible that fostered curiosity, built resilience, and strengthened human bonds. As we replace human vulnerability with synthetic certainty, we risk raising a generation that's incredibly fluent at retrieving information, but fundamentally unable to grapple with ambiguity, think creatively, or maintain epistemic agency. The kids are all right. Remember, they're actually better at self-control than previous generations, but they're growing up in an environment that may be inadvertently undermining the very cognitive processes that make us most human. The solution isn't to reject AI. That's neither possible nor desirable. The solution is to be intentional about preserving epistemic friction, teaching critical AI literacy, and redefining our roles as parents and educators. We need to ensure that the advent of artificial intelligence augments rather than erodes the foundational architecture of human intelligence. So here's my challenge for you. This week, try saying, "I don't know" to your child at least once, not because you actually don't know, but because you want to give them the gift of uncertainty, the joy of discovery, and the irreplaceable experience of learning something together. Trust me, it might be one of the most valuable things you can teach them. That's a wrap on today's Mindcast. If this episode got you thinking, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts on social media using hashtag MindcastPodcast, or better yet, share this episode with a parent or educator who needs to hear this message. Next week, we're diving into another fascinating intersection of psychology and technology, how virtual reality is being used to treat phobias and PTSD, and what it reveals about the nature of fear itself. Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, "I don't know." I'm Will. Thanks for listening to Mindcast.